Hello and welcome. Tonight, 3 days to the Ondo State governorship election. Leaders and supporters of the PDP and APC besiege the Ondo State for the rallies in support of their candidates. Candidates of the APC and PDP slug it out in a debate organized by Channels Television, Civil Society Situation Room and UK Aid. President Muhammadu Buhari gives assurances of adequate measures to ensure that the October 10th governorship election in Ondo State is peaceful, transparent and credible. And U.S. Vice President Mike Pence and Democratic nominee Kamala Harris square off in their first and only debate tonight. Plus business, sports, and later from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's former finance minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and South Korean trade minister make final two candidate lists for the World Trade Organization's top job.
On sports news tonight, world number one Novak Djokovic sets up semi-final clash against Stefanos Tsitsipas at the French Open after dispatching Pablo Carreño Busta.
Thank you for joining us. We begin with politics. It's 3 days to the Ondo State governorship election on Saturday, October the 10th, and the ruling All Progressives Congress is upbeat about victory in this weekend's poll. The party leaders at the both national and state levels say the level of development witnessed in the state over the past 3 years will bring the party's victory. They were speaking during the grand finale of the party's campaign in Akure, the state capital. We'll bring you a full report of the rally in the course of today's bulletin. And ahead of Saturday's election, leaders of the People's Democratic Party today stormed Ondo town for a mega rally, the grand finale of the governorship campaign. Those in attendance included the PDP National Chairman, Uche Secondus, Chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, Governor Aminu Tambuwal, and Chairman of the Ondo governorship campaign team and Governor Seyi Makinde, along with other serving and former PDP governors. Alongside the party's flag bearer, Eyitayo Jegede, they asked the electorate to vote for the PDP in order to change the fortunes of the state.
The People's Democratic Party mega rally, the last to be held in Ondo State before the governorship election on Saturday. Party members and leaders assembled at the Civic Center in Ondo Township to mobilize support for the party's candidate, Mr. Eyitayo Jegede. Party supporters sing in affirmation of their belief that the PDP has all it takes not only to win the election, but its party will provide the best economic agenda for the revival of the states they claim has performed below expectations by the ruling party.
Is to go and exercise that your voice, that your vote. That is the only liberating power that you have.
Are you ready to vote Eyitayo Jegede? Are you ready to vote PDP?
PDP!
Some state governors elected under the platform of the PDP are also present to lend their support to the party's candidates as they call on the National Electoral Commission not to compromise the election process.
The train had started to roar for the liberalization of our dear country, Nigeria.
We have been on the road since morning also to get here. Instead of them to mind their own campaign in Akure, they came here and they damaged the road so that we won't get here on time. If they damage the road, can they damage your fingers?
The only way that God will help us and resolve the tension and crisis in this country is for Buhari to conduct free and fair
candidate himself. The large gathering of supporters have not only shown that his own base support is an indicator that the PDP is a strong contender in the governorship election.
Are we going to cast our votes or are we not? Who is going to win on the 10th of this month? We will come out and vote. We will stay with the vote, count it, and I will win.
The contest no doubt promises to be an exciting one, given the quality of candidates from the other political parties. But as it stands now, the PDP believes that its own candidate, Eyitayo Jegede, stands a better chance in Saturday's elections.
Meanwhile, before the test of their popularity at the polls, the leading candidates in the Ondo governorship election today squared off in a debate in Akure, the state capital. The incumbent governor and candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, highlighted his plans for the state if elected for a second term. During the channel's television debate, Mr. Akeredolu said he'd done enough in the past 4 years to seek the people's mandate again. His main opponent, the governorship candidate of the PDP, Mr. Eyitayo Jegede, criticized Governor Akeredolu for not doing enough. However, for the people of Ondo State, he says if voted into office on Saturday, he will change the developmental narrative in Ondo State. I will bring you more details of the debate in the course of today's bulletin. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has declared that all necessary measures have been put in place to ensure that the October 10 governorship election in Ondo State is peaceful, transparent, and credible. A statement from the presidency confirms that President Buhari is also assuring the electorate in Ondo of adequate security to forestall any breach of the peace. In a video message to party supporters at the grand finale of the APC campaign for the Ondo governorship election, the president asked the electorate to turn out en masse on Saturday to vote without fear of molestation. He also expressed confidence that the party supporters will vote in accordance with the laws guiding the electoral process. From there now, besides the president's assurances, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, is again warning politicians against actions and utterances that could undermine free, fair, and credible conduct of the Ondo governorship election. He's threatened to bring down the full weight of the law on anyone, regardless of their status, who engages in electoral fraud, including violence, vote buying, ballot box snatching, and hate speech. A statement from the Force Public Relations Officer, Frank Mba, says Mr. Adamu has also ordered all police officers and other law enforcement agents deployed for the poll to conduct themselves in accordance with the Regional Act's provisions. He warns that defaulting police officers and other law enforcement officers will be strictly held liable with dire legal consequences. The IGP is also reassuring the people of Ondo that adequate security measures have been put in place to ensure their safety throughout the period of the election and beyond. And back to the debates for the Ondo governorship election. The serving governor and candidate of the APC, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, highlighted his plans for the state if elected for a second term. He says he'd done enough in the past 4 years to seek the people's mandate once again.
We have clear vision of where we are going. We are tested, we've been here in the saddle, and we have learned a lot during this process. And it's not something, what you gain being a governor, even for 2 years, is great advantage over any other person. So for me, with this advantage, which is on our side, I believe that we should be able to at least serve this state one more time and at least take this state to the glorious heights which we always had in our focus all the time. All the time, I've always believed that Ondo State is blessed. We have everything. And yes, we needed very composed and focused leadership. And this, with all respect, and is not praising or trying to pick myself as if I'm the best. But with all respect, I believe that we have led in this direction, in a direction to ensure that Ondo State is on a better pedestal.
Meanwhile, his main opponent, the governorship candidate of the PDP, Mr. Aita Ojegede, criticized Governor Akeredolu for not doing enough for the people of Ondo State. He says if voted into office on Saturday, he will change the developmental narrative in the state.
I know things are not going too well, and I believe there's need for us to have a new phase and a new positive change. I believe the time has come for us to have a more holistic, honest, and practical view at governance. What I intend to do, by the grace of God, and why I think I should be considered, is one, because I intend to grow the economy. I know there are challenges in the health sector. I intend to confront it. I know that our tertiary institutions are in a bad state. The university education has become too costly for people in Ondo State. Our industry here is education. When we're in government as Attorney General, the cost of tuition fee is just 25,000 naira to 30,000 naira. As soon as this government came in, it was increased to 150,000 naira per each university student. Unfortunately, we are at the receiving end. I intend, by the grace of God, to bring this down and also ensure that we have jobs for our youth by engaging the private sector. I intend to deal with agri sector in a fresh, new way by taking the sense of our farmers and seeing what way they can increase their output. First, so that we can have food security. Secondly, provide employment. And thirdly, serve the industries which we intend to put in place. We know it's difficult for government to do it alone. We intend to engage the private sector in doing this.
That was at the Channels Television debate where the candidate of the Zenith Labour Party and State Deputy Governor, Mr. Agbola Ajayi, had earlier pulled out of the debate shortly before it started. Away from the Ondo governorship elections, the International Center for Settlement of Investment Dispute has relieved Nigeria of $1.5 billion and awarded an arbitration cost of $660,000, according to a statement from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami. The tribunal absolves Nigeria of any liability that the country did not breach her obligations in the contract agreements with Inter-Ocean Development Company and Inter-Ocean Oil Exploration Company under Nigerian law or under international law. The statement reads in part, the tribunal finds no liability on the part of respondents in connection with claimants' loss of control over their investment, Pan Ocean. Mr. Malami described the judgment as an addition to the multiple success stories recorded in international litigations by the Federal Ministry of Justice. Meanwhile, the federal government is announcing the total closure of the Third Mainland Bridge in Lagos from midnight of Friday, 9th October 2020 to midnight of Sunday, 11th October 2020 to allow for completion of the first stage of casting works. A statement from the Federal Controller of Works in Lagos, Mr. Olukade Popola, explains both bounds of the bridge between Adeniji-Adele and Adekunle require total closure. He says the total closure is to ensure that there is no vibration on the bridge during the casting in place of newly installed expansion joints and to allow for the setting of the special concrete to achieve its required compressive strength. The section of the bridge between Adekunle and Yanoworo will remain open, and the traffic management personnel will be in place on all the alternative routes to help with the traffic flow. In part two, after the break, the Senate and House of Representatives wade into the debate of the call for the scrapping of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. That's in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. 3 days to the Ondo State governorship election, leaders and supporters of the PDP and APC besiege Ondo for final rallies in support of their candidates. Candidates of the APC and PDP slug it out in a debate organized by Channels Television, Civil Society Situation Room and UK Aid. President Buhari gives assurance of adequate measures to ensure that the October 10th governorship election in Ondo State is peaceful, transparent, and credible. And U.S. President Mike Pence and Democratic nominee Kamala Harris square off in their first and only debate tonight. Plus business, sports, and later from our studios in London. And now it's the police in the spotlight, as Senate President Ahmed Lawan insists scrapping the Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS is not the solution to the problem of extrajudicial killings in the country. Rather, he says the rule of law should be practiced with the arrest and prosecution of police officers who engage in abuse, harassment, and extrajudicial killing. Senator Lawan was responding to a motion by Senator Oluremi Tinubu on extrajudicial killing and human rights violations by security operatives. Our correspondent Linda Kigbe reports.
Ifeoma Abugu, allegedly illegally detained, tortured and killed by the police in Abuja on October 2020. Remo Stars Football Club player Tiamu Kazim, also allegedly killed by officers of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS in February 2020. Kolade Johnson, also killed by the police in 2019. And the list goes on. It's been a sordid tale of terror unleashed by the police. In the aftermath of the latest incident involving the police and a man who was hospitalized following an alleged attempt to evade arrest in Ueli, Delta State, the Inspector General of Police banned the SARS from routine patrol and released new guidelines for its operations. The House of Representatives is also wading in, vowing to act over allegations of extrajudicial killings and other vices by SARS.
The House therefore resolves, further request the Inspector General of Police to produce a comprehensive record of disciplinary and or judicial action taken against the officers accused of abuse of power in the past 5 years.
In the Senate, a lawmaker raises a motion on the brutality of the Nigerian police, while some senators, including the Senate President, prefer solutions to this problem.
Senate is concerned that Nigerian youth can no longer move freely for fear that they will be profiled and accused of being Yahoo boys or fraudsters merely because they look good, own laptops, iPhones, nice-looking cars, or profiled by having dreads or certain hairstyles.
There are good elements in SARS, and they have been doing a very wonderful job. So if you scrap SARS, for example, you lose the chance of getting those that are doing well to continue to do well. But anybody in SARS, or indeed in any arm of the security agencies that commits excesses should be prosecuted. The law should take its course, full course.
The Senate recommends that the police set up hotlines for Nigerians to report abuse and human rights violations by its officers. The National Assembly is mandated to oversight security agencies such as the police. But Nigerians are wondering why abuse and extrajudicial killings by the police have gone on for so long without the intervention of the National Assembly. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Police Service Commission is vowing to sanction any police officer who operates outside approved laws and regulations. In a statement, the Commission states that such erring officers, whether of the federal, state or IGP unit, including other departments of the police in the country, will face disciplinary action. While pledging to closely monitor the activities of these officers, the PSC restates its mandate to discipline, dismiss and exercise disciplinary control over officers in the Nigeria Police Force, except the Inspector General of Police, and warned that it will discharge the function without fear or favor. It also urges Nigerians to send complaints on any police officers found to be compromising on their rules of engagement to relevant telephone numbers, emails, and social media platforms. To the executive, the Federal Executive Council has approved the sum of 653.88 million naira to procure and deploy a hybrid spectrum monitoring system that will cover the southern part of the country. This was disclosed by the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy at the end of the virtual Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at State House in Abuja. According to him, investigations carried out in 5 geopolitical zones reveal that out of the 320 frequencies discovered, 106 were illegal.
It is the 18th Virtual Federal Executive Council meeting, chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari. Deliberations lasted 3 hours, which is not very long considering the number of memos approved by Council, beginning with the approval to deploy a hybrid spectrum monitoring system to check frequencies in the southeast.
We discovered that our monitoring did not cover southeast. It covers 5 zones in the country: south, northeast, northwest, north central, southwest, and south-south. However, southeast has not been covered. It is because of this we presented a memo seeking for Council's approval of 653 million naira, 886,000 naira, 584.
The Port Harcourt-Maiduguri Eastern Narrow Gauge Railway is to be rehabilitated and reconstructed. The Minister of Transport gives details.
The railway line will be $3.020279 billion. The industrial park, which is under PP at no cost to the federal government, will cost $241, $154,389.31 million dollars. Then the Bonny Deep Seaport will cost $461,924,369 million at no cost to the federal government. I want to repeat that.
Council also gave approval for 850 acres of land from the Kabusa district in Abuja to be used to construct residential buildings and offices for 183 million naira. Other approvals include the rehabilitation of screening machines at airports nationwide for 654 million naira, the augmentation of 788 million naira for a 6-month extension for the completion of the Abeokuta-Ibadan Road, while the Federal Road Safety Corps is to be given 21 locally assembled vehicles at the sum of 292 million naira. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
And now to bring you the details of the rally for the APC for the Ondo State governorship elections. Party leaders at the national and state levels of the APC say the development witnessed in the state over the past 3 years will ensure the party's victory. They were speaking during the grand finale of their campaign in Akure, the state capital.
It's a large turnout of supporters of the All Progressives Congress in Ondo State. It is the party's mega rally and grand finale of its statewide tour and campaign.
APC, my chairman.
The National Caretaker Committee chairman of the party and Yobe State Governor, Maima Labuni, leads other party leaders across the country to the state.
We are here not to fight, not to create violence. We are here to maintain, sustain, and deepen our mandate under the able and performing Governor Rotimi Akeredolu.
President Muhammadu Buhari addresses the supporters through virtual means, rallying support for the ruling party.
Vote right, vote wisely, vote for continuity and progress, vote APC.
The Vice President, Professor Emir of Zamfara, also via a virtual address, commends Governor Rotimi Akeredolu for his development efforts in the state. The party expresses confidence in winning the re-election contest. In their goodwill messages, party leaders woo supporters, asking them to rally more support for their party.
Let us go there and cast a vote. It is end of discussion. It is time to get your card and go to the polling unit and do what is necessary on Saturday. We are here. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. We are going to win hands down. We've come with a message of hope. A message that will speak to your conscience. A message that will bring support to our great party, the largest party in black and white Africa. to support our governor, who is already performing and doing very well.
Governor Keredolu is upbeat about victory. While campaigns gradually wind down, countdown continues to Saturday, October the 10th, when residents of Ondo State decide who governs them over the next 4 years.
To legal matters now, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State has inaugurated the newly built Rivers State Customary Court of Appeal halls and ultra-modern e-library in the state capital. Governor Wike applauded the judicious utilization of funds in facilitating the capital project.
The last hope of the common man, as the judicial arm of government is often referred to, is getting what is arguably significant attention in Rivers State. The latest in the installment of Judiciary Capital projects is the inauguration of the fully furnished Customary Court of Appeal complex, as witnessed by Governor Nyesom Wike, his wife, state officials, legal luminaries, and other dignitaries. According to the president of the Customary Court of Appeal, the facility houses 2 court halls, chambers for the judges, e-library, and others.
Today's event is therefore another crowning moment of Your Excellency's strong commitment to the development of this all-important institution for the promotion of rule of law.
Goodwill messages are not in short supply from the former president of the NBA, OCJ Okocha, State NBA Chairman Prince Nyekwere, to the River State Chief Judge, Justice Adama Iyaye Laminkara.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for always attending to the call of the judiciary. We are very grateful, and thank you, because I know you will still do more for us.
For Governor Nyesom Wike, he insists he will spare nothing to ensure the smooth administration of justice in the judicial system.
And I have continued to say that anything that has to do to improve the administration of justice, as far as our state is concerned, I'm not going to look back. All the requests you have made, particularly as regards to employment of more chairmen and members of the customary courts, that of course I've approved it, and the chairman of the Judicial Service Commission is aware.
The high point of the event is the commissioning of the Customary Court of Appeal complex by Governor Wike.
In the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
And the inauguration of the e-library by his wife, Justice Suzette Eberichi Wike.
Rivers State Customary Court of Appeal, built and commissioned by His Excellency Chief Barrister Nyesom Wike, COS, DSS, TOS Africa, Governor of Rivers State.
With a drive to ease the burden of the judiciary and ensure their autonomy through the provision of basic necessities, it is expected that better days lie ahead for the common man in the Rivers State courts. From Port Harcourt, Jeffrey Uzongo, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, former Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and South Korean Trade Minister make final 2 candidate lists for the World Trade Organization Director General position. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back. Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna has approved the appointment of Alhaji Ahmed Nuhu Bamali as the 19th Emir of Zazzau. This was announced in a statement issued today by the Commissioner for Local Government Affairs, Jafar Usani. Alhaji Bamali succeeds the late 18th Emir, Alhaji Shehu Idris, who died on September the 20th, 2020, after reigning for 45 years. He's the first Emir from the Malawa ruling house in 100 years following the death of his grandfather, Emir Dan Sidi, in 1920. Until his appointment, Alhaji Bamali held the title of Magajin Garin Zazzau and served as Nigeria's ambassador to Thailand, with concurrent accreditation to Myanmar. Following the announcement of the new Emir, security was beefed up around the palace in Zaria as jubilating residents trooped in. In the nation's 60 years of independence, sports, which is arguably the most unifying sector, has gone through its ups and downs. As we continue our series on Nigeria at 60, our next report takes a look at how the country's sports sector has fared.
Yakini, can he bet it back? Oh, just off the line and the goalkeeper.
Let's take you down memory lane. Nigeria has had remarkable moments, especially with regard to the beautiful game, football. Conquering Africa thrice at the continent's biggest football competition, the African Cup of Nations, in 1980, 1994 and 2013. Nigeria's incredible run at the 1996 Atlanta Games remains its biggest in Olympic history.
Has scored. Emmanuel Amunike has scored for Nigeria right at the death.
Against all odds, Nigeria won gold in football.
There is the final whistle. There is a historic moment. Nigeria become the first African nation to claim gold.
And Chioma Ajunwa made it 2 gold medals with a stunning 7.12 meters leap in the women's long jump. Other notable achievements in sports include first African country to come 5th on the FIFA rankings, first African country to win Olympic gold medal, and first African country to win a record 5 FIFA Under-17 World Cup titles, and first African country to win 8 African Women's Championship titles.
Yinka Ajayi has done it. Gold for Nigeria in the 4x400 meter relay race.
From track and field to boxing and across other sporting activities, Nigerian athletes have made their marks. However, it's not been all rosy.
We politicize sports administration by allowing those that don't have the requisite qualification to man our sports. Everything here is about ethnicity. Everything here is about favoritism. Everything here about religion. That is the problem.
The country is still struggling to put its sports infrastructure in the right frame. Nigerian athletes are still faced with the challenge of getting proper preparations for competitions.
Athlete first, because of the high goal they set for themselves. I think that the athlete will surely find a way to train, but we still have to manage them. We still have to give them a pat at the back. We still have to monitor them, see how are you doing, how are you feeling. But I always like to plead that the money for training should be given before, not the money in competition.
In all of this, there is cheery news as Nigeria marks its 60th anniversary.
The submission to have sports turn into business from being a recreation at all, that has happened. We have received the nod that sports becomes a business. And that's why very soon we're going to have a national sports industry policy that will turn our sports into business.
As the country begins a new journey, all hope appears not lost, particularly as the Ministry of Sports begins the implementation of initiatives to reposition the sector, such as the Adopt an Athlete or Facility initiative, which could return the country to its glorious days in the world of sports.
And now let's get some more perspective on the issue of sports development in the country, and we are now being joined by a sports consultant, Mr. Dapo Daramala. You're welcome to the news at 10.
Always my pleasure.
And it's our pleasure to have you. We saw in that report, Nigeria at 60 in sports, some achievements that sparked up nostalgia. Why has Nigeria been unable to replicate the successes of the past so far?
Well, that's what we describe as the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay, in the sector. The good is what we have seen, so many historic achievements, historic successes. Chioma Ajunwa getting us the first gold, talking about right from the days of Organ Kid Bassi to Dick Tiger in the world of boxing, David Nzorite to Samuel Peters. So we've had those historic moments, But what has not happened, which is the bad, is that, like you have asked rightly, it has not transformed that into what we can call a global success at the local level, and I will explain. It's not been transformational. It's been historic. So it's about the moment. But it's not been transformational. That means it has not transformed where we, us from where we were to where we ought to be. And that's the question you're asking. And that brings us to the ugly part. The ugly part is that there are a lot more issues that are, I would say, that are bedeviling, the growth and development of sports. And of course, easily I will tell you that corruption is number one. And I will explain. Yeah, Fernando Nduboke said, talked about, those sentimental issues like religion, like ethnicity, like politics, which are true. But we cannot take away corruption. And I'll give an example. In 2018, Nigeria went to the World Cup for the 6th time. And for participating at the World Cup, we went away with $12 million for participating, $12 million. Now, that is from FIFA, okay? They got money from the federation, from the sport ministry, from the federal government. They also got money from their partners. They have, partners, who give them money. I don't need to mention the brands on air, but they get money from all these people. Now, where's accountability and transparency? Can they tell us how they spent the $12 billion? You expect that having gotten money from the federal government and having gotten money to prepare themselves and to travel for the competition from their top partners, such monies should be diverted to developing, sports in this country. There is a raging issue right now, which I expect that journalists will have, pommeled somebody like Abu Gumel, the president of the Nigerian Olympic Committee, to come and tell us. Now, we have heard clearly from the International Olympic Committee as of July that they are giving their, 206 countries, that is NOCs, National Olympic Committee in 206 countries, including Nigeria, that they are giving them, they're going to share $57 million with them. As we speak today, they told us, Abu Gumel and his team told us in July that they have not received that money.
These are allegations, correct?
No, they sound like allegations, but
they're allegations that need to be
I'll
proven.
tell you personally, okay, I sent a letter, an email, to the press office of IOC to tell us, how this thing went. And they gave us the release which they shared in July that they are going to share this money, okay, they call it palliatives, to the NOCs, including Nigeria. So I'm not just throwing allegation. The one of saying FIFA gave us, $12 million is not an allegation. It's an open, matter. So, and that's why I said they should have, what did they do with the money?
So that's mismanagement.
Yeah, let's move on corruption and mismanagement.
Let's move on to the next question now. We heard the minister speak about making sports a business more than a recreational activity. In August, he proposed a revised national sports industry policy. Do you think it holds any promise for the development of sports?
The only thing government is meant to do with sports is to create an enabling environment. So that's why I'm going to ask the sport minister. You have been there for how many months? What exactly? Tell me how many stadia you have transformed. That belongs to the federal government.
Do you not see what he's doing?
I've not seen anything.
As a way of policy.
In terms of tangibility, the policy has been there for years. So we don't need any new direction. We know what we ought to be doing. These are political statements. We know what to do. Okay? Athletes are going, for an international engagement. If Tokyo had not been cancelled, they'll be representing Nigeria. What has been done? Have you asked questions of, our own federations? I am aware, and I'm speaking authoritatively, that international federations normally give grants to their, affiliates at the domestic level, including Nigeria. What have they done with the grants that are being given to them? These grants are meant for the athletes to prepare themselves for the major competitions. What have been done with those grants?
So you're going back to transparency again.
Bottom line, because
accountability.
That's what I expect.
As far as management of sports
and
is
even the
concerned.
infrastructural development that belongs to the federal government,
right?
Okay, they have to create an enabling environment for these athletes to train and to be in good shape. Go to the national stadium. The man has been there as sport minister. What exactly has he done in transforming, the face of sports in our country at the level of providing infrastructure?
Okay, now in 20 seconds, going forward, how best can you describe how sports can be administered going forward in 20 seconds?
It's very simple. I'll give an example. You cannot have a Premier League in Nigeria that has only 2 or 3 teams that are privately owned. And then government is owning about 17 clubs. What is government doing with football clubs? So I agree totally that you must remove your hands from such things. If not because they are conduits for people to siphon money, I don't see why government has any business in running football clubs. Football clubs were run better in this country when they were in private hands. Talk about Abela Babes, stationery stores, NMB, IBWA, many like that, Ranchers Bees, they were in private hands. Why is the government interested in running football clubs? So what I'm saying invariably is that government must totally say bye-bye to football and bye-bye to other sports, allow private owners to come on board. And then you focus on providing enabling environment and closing the tap of corruption, which is making people to kill themselves to be in office as chairman of federations and all of that. That is the way to move forward. It's very simple. So that's why I'm saying that the sport minister is wasting time. We know what to do. Let's do what is right. Create the enabling environment, and then we begin on that journey of transformation. So that all these historic moments we are celebrating in the last 60 years can turn to transformational experience for the people who are participating.
Okay, so we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your contribution, Mr. Dapo Daramola, sports consultant.
Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's former finance minister, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and South Korea's first female trade minister, Yoon Myung-hee, have emerged as the final 2 out of 5 candidates in the race to lead the World Trade Organization. This is according to sources familiar with the latest development in the race. This comes after members of the European Union endorsed both women as candidates to lead the 25-year-old Intergovernmental Trade Organization earlier this week. However, WTO General Council Chairman David Walker plans to formally announce the results to the institution's delegates on Thursday morning in Geneva. Meanwhile, a third and final round of consultations will begin later this month and is scheduled to run until November the 6th, when the WTO aims to agree by consensus on the next Director General on November the 7th, amid concerns of U.S. support for the final selection. Now, the Senate has approved and passed the 2021 to 2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and Fiscal Strategy Paper, FSP, proposing a budget size of 13.08 trillion naira and fiscal deficit of 5.19 trillion naira. The Senate approval of the MTEF follows the consideration of a report prepared by the Committee on Finance and presented by its chairman. With respect to borrowings in the 2021 fiscal year, the Senate is approving new borrowings of 4.28 trillion naira and debt services estimate of 3.12 trillion naira. The MTEF report raised concerns of how many revenue-generating agencies are failing to meet revenue targets, and some of them engaging in frivolous spendings, a situation which worries lawmakers. Let's check in on the stock market now. After a 12 consecutive day rally, the equities market slowed down its pace at the close of today's trading session as investors take advantage of the gains recorded by bellwether stocks on the NSE. Layo Adegoke tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Markets Report. Just when the ovation was getting louder, the bulls took some step backwards, giving way to the bears at the close of midweek trading session. This comes a day after the domestic stock market recorded its highest gain in 5 years, making the world's best performing stock after it extended its rally for 12 consecutive days, the longest since July 2017. At the close of today's trading, the market's main index softened by nearly 1%, but remains within the 28,000 level after investors renewed profit-taking on 31 high-value and mid-cap equities, in particular the shares of MTN Nigeria, which fell by 2 naira. The The impact of the fresh sell down was felt mostly by the banking sector, which lost more than 3%. Insurance, consumer and industrial goods were also down, while the oil and gas counter remained positive. Analysts say the market remains attractive, especially for portfolio investors, and that today's drop is just a reaction to profit taken by short-term investors. Meanwhile, traders are optimistic for a rebound in Thursday's session. That's the stock market report. I'm Layo Adegoke.
It's back to Olumide for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Teniola. The U.S. vice presidential debate is set to hold tonight amidst a coronavirus pandemic that has hit the U.S. population. White House physician Dr. Sean Conley says the U.S. president has had no COVID-19 symptoms for 24 hours. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. After a trial lasting more than 5 years, the leadership of Greece's neo-Nazi party has been convicted of running a criminal organisation. Big crowds gathered outside the court in Athens as the judges gave verdicts on 68 defendants. Golden Dawn won 18 MPs in 2012 as Greeks were battered by a financial crisis. The criminal inquiry into the party began with the murder of an anti-fascist rapper in 2013. Leader Nikos Michailoliakos and 6 colleagues have been convicted of heading a criminal group, while supporter Georgios Roupalias has been found guilty of murdering an anti-racist musician. 15 others have been convicted of conspiracy in the case. COVID-19 has spread further among those around US President Donald Trump, with White House advisor Stephen Miller and a top military official both infected. Several military leaders have also been quarantining after Coast Guard official Admiral Charles Ray tested positive for the virus. Trump returned to work in the White House from hospital on Monday, despite being diagnosed with the disease only last week. Meanwhile, Democratic candidate Joe Biden has said Trump should not debate him if he is still infected.
I think if he still has COVID, we shouldn't have a debate. I think we're going to have to follow very strict guidelines. Too many people have been infected, and it's a very serious problem. And so I'll be guided by the guidelines of the Cleveland Clinic and what the docs say the right thing to do, if and when he shows up for debate.
Facebook has banned all accounts linked to the QAnon conspiracy theory movement from its platforms. The move is a significant escalation to Facebook's earlier decision to remove or restrict groups and accounts sharing and promoting QAnon material. QAnon is a conspiracy theory that says President Trump is waging a war against elite Satan-worshipping pedophiles. Facebook has begun removing content, but has said that this work will take time and will continue in the coming days and weeks. Kazakhstan's Prime Minister has resigned after widespread post-election protests, which plunged the country into political chaos. Kubatbek Boronov has now been replaced by Sadir Japarov, who protesters released from jail the day before. Opposition groups had earlier seized control of parliament, protesting election results they say were rigged. Facing mounting pressure, the country's electoral body has annulled the results of Sunday's parliamentary elections. A court in Kenya has found 2 men guilty of helping Islamist militants to attack an upmarket shopping mall in 2013. At least 67 people died in the assault by Al-Shabaab on the Westgate shopping complex in the capital Nairobi. The state said the 4 militants who carried out the attack were found dead in the shopping centre's rubble. The militants occupied the mall for 4 days in one of the deadliest attacks by Al-Shabaab in Kenya.
We've got 2 of the accused persons convicted out of the 4. So I think to that extent, we have to commend the magistrate for that and say it's justice for the people of Kenya and those who were affected by the Westgate attack.
Ethiopian celebrities and influential artists have started a movement calling for tougher sentences for sex offenders following a rise in child abuse since the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. Actress Mekdace Tsege is the face of the new social movement called Zim Alelim, which means I will not be silenced. Zim Alelim has collected more than 50,000 signatures for a petition calling for stricter punishments for rape and sexual abuse. The Ethiopian government has said it recognizes the problems and is working on initiatives initiatives to curb sexual violence and bring offenders to justice. September was the warmest month on record globally. That's according to a recent report by the weather service Copernicus. It was 0.05 Celsius hotter than September last year. Scientists have said it's a clear indication of temperatures being driven by emissions from human society. This year is also projected to become the warmest on record for Europe, even if temperatures cool somewhat from now on. The elevated heat globally has contributed to record wildfires in California and Australia. And finally, James Bond fans may have to wait until next year for the next 007 adventure, but next month, those with deep pockets can get their hands on some of the most famous items from the previous movies. The ivory-coloured bikini worn by Ursula Andress in Dr. No, the first Bond movie, is up for auction in Los Angeles with an estimated price of up to $500,000. The auction will take place online and in Los Angeles on November the 12th. The next Bond movie, No Time to Die, was last week pushed back from November to an April release in movie theatres. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Novak Djokovic will face Stefanos Tsitsipas in the semi-finals of the French Open after rallying past Pablo Carreño Busta. Djokovic recovered from a set down to make it through to his 38th Grand Slam semi-final with a 4-6, 6-2, 6-3, 6-4 victory in 3 hours and 10 minutes. Fourth seed Sophia Kenin is through to the French Open semi-finals after overcoming compatriot Danielle Collins for the first time. Kenin produced a solid performance to overcome her American rival, who had won all 3 of previous encounters 6-4, 4-6, 6-love. She hit 38 winners to only 26 unforced errors and will next face Petra Kvitova for a place in the championship decider. And that's it on sports news. It's back to you, Olumide, for the wrap.
Thank you, Ayo. And the main news again. It's 3 days to the Ondo State governorship election, and leaders and supporters of the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress today besieged the state for final rallies in support of their candidates. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Do have a good night.